Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is the World War III update for June 22nd, 2022. This is going to be pretty quick. I'm going to go over just several kind of high-level issues. First up, we're going to go over the situation in Kaliningrad and Lithuania. We're going to talk real quick about what's going on in the Strait of Kerch and some oil rigs in the Black Sea. Touch really briefly on the oil and gas situation throughout Europe, and we're going to talk real quick about Taiwan and China. All right, first up, let's talk about Kaliningrad. So you may have heard of this recently or not. Kaliningrad is this really small, if you see the map on your screen here, it's that really small pink spot in the middle of Poland and Lithuania. Now, it's Russian territory. Nobody's disputing that. It's been Russian since the end of World War II. The way that Russia currently supplies Kaliningrad is primarily via rail down through Belarus, and then you get to this Soooo Gap. And that runs right along the border of Poland and Lithuania on the Lithuania side. And there are treaties in place allowing for the transport of goods, people, and all of that along that rail line into Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is home to about 900,000 people from what I could find. A lot of them are going to be Russian military. Russia does have military assets there, and there's rumors that there may be nuclear weapons there. Within the last several years, Russia is believed to have made a major upgrade to a nuclear launch site that we know is there from at least from the USSR days. So they've upgraded that. We believe there to be nukes there. This is a little bit closer up of the situation. So strategically, Russia really cares about Kaliningrad. One, it's a warm water port. So if you were to look at a larger map, Russia doesn't have any way to access the oceans a lot of the year because they're frozen, right? It's in the Arctic. That's not true over here in Kaliningrad at the Baltic Sea. If Russia can get their stuff there, they can get out to the oceans, and they don't have to go all the way up and around the top of Sweden and Finland and all of that. So that's why Russia really cares about this. Again, with the military presence there, you also basically have Russia square in the middle, right here, in NATO territory, except it's Russian territory. So strategically, this is a great spot for them. Basically, there's, you've got, they can get to Berlin, they can get to Warsaw, they can get to all of these places, and these are all NATO countries. I think my next slide is the NATO map. It is good. So again, look at everything that is blue, that's NATO. Everything that's pink is Russia. Everything that's gray is neither of those, though you could maybe color Belarus slightly pink. So Russia really cares. Now, Lithuania has started implementing the EU sanctions, and that means that they are blocking the transport of some goods, not all, but some goods through Lithuania along that rail line, that red line there. They've begun to block some of that, some transport through there. Let me see if I can get you to that list real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll read these quotes. So the sanction items, the things that Lithuania is now blocking, are construction machinery, heavy equipment, factory machinery, things of that nature. Machine tools, so think things like lathes, lots of scientific equipment, things that are probably really useful for the military, and a list of luxury goods, cosmetics, shoes, perfumes, watches, accessories, things like that. So that's what's been blocked. And Russia is understandably a little upset about this. And so they've communicated to Lithuania that they demand the immediate restoration of normal Kaliningrad transit. Otherwise, retaliatory measures will follow. These measures are being worked out in an interdepartmental format and will be taken in the near future. The consequences will have a serious negative impact on the population of Lithuania. So Russia hasn't said what they're going to do. Best case scenario, Russia does some sanctions. Russia does some export controls, limits the amount of energy available to Lithuania, any fuels, any rare earth materials that Russia may be involved in. They may, they could stop that, or they could go the aggressive route. They could actually, harm Lithuania. I don't know that we're ready for that, because Lithuania is a NATO ally, and I don't know that Russia's ready for that. So Lithuania has responded and said there is no blockade. So blockade is a word being used by Russia about this. They say it's ironic to hear rhetoric about alleged violations of international treaties from a country which has violated possibly every single international treaty. They've also said that the transit of passengers and non-EU sanctioned goods to the Kaliningrad region through Lithuania continues uninterrupted. Lithuania has not imposed any new unilateral, individual, or additional restrictions on transit and is acting fully in accordance with EU law. Here's the list of items that are sanctioned. I think it makes sense that Russia's upset. I think it makes sense that Lithuania is doing what they're doing. Unfortunately, that means whatever comes next should be expected. I think it's likely. I think it's most likely to be another log on the fire. But it is possible in this situation we could see this get a little hot. Hopefully cooler heads prevail, because there are normal people living in all of these areas. And while these politicians are waging war with one another, they hurt us. So hopefully cooler heads prevail. All right, on to the Strait of Kerch, and we'll do Strait of Kerch first, and then we're going to talk about the oil platforms that Ukraine has been hitting in the Black Sea. So the Strait of Kerch is a body of water that separates Russia from the region called Crimea. Crimea has been occupied by Russia for about 8 years now. They annexed it in, I believe, 2014. They use this bridge here that you can see pictured to move stuff in and out of the region, right? All the things you use a bridge for. Last week, I've got a video for that. Hopefully I remember to put a card up over here where I talk about this. But Ukraine has been given lots of weapons by the West. Most notably, they've been given this MLRS. I'll see if I can throw a video up here in post. I should have. The MLRS is the thing that shoots a bunch of rockets off all at one time. Looks like a scary piece of equipment. They've been given that by the West, and they promised that they would not use these weapons against Russian assets in Russian territory, basically keep the West out of it and use it for defensive purposes. Now, arguably, Crimea is not Russian territory, but I believe that is a Russian bridge, even if it's not actually Russian territory. And so Ukraine is talking about using these MLRS to take out this bridge and basically sever the umbilical cord from that Russia's using. So this strategically and tactically, it makes a lot of sense. So that's why they're talking about it. I think that would be a big escalation point, especially if civilians got killed. Boyko's Towers out in the Black Sea. So these are Russian-occupied, Ukrainian-owned gas platforms sitting out in the Black Sea pulling natural gas up. Ukraine bought these, I'm going to get the years wrong, Maybe I'll remember to put it up in post. So they bought these about a decade ago. They got to use them for a couple of years, and then I guess maybe they bought them in 2012. They got to use them until about 2014 when Russia came in, annexed Crimea, and I believe the more southern region, that I think that's the Donbass. I'm not a geography expert, but anyway, so Russians occupy these gas platforms, and Ukraine hit 2 of them with missiles the other day. There were pictures of it on fire. It was kind of interesting. I should have put it up in here. 5 people evacuated, 3 injured. These would be Russian nationals, I assume, but certainly working in Russian, towards Russian interests. So that happened. I think I saw that another incident, I think they've actually hit a 3rd, not necessarily one of these towers, but another one. So it looks to me like Ukraine is starting to go on the offensive more, and I think it makes sense if you're Ukraine, right? Like, you got to do something. This can't go on forever. Your friends in the West aren't going to keep supplying you weapons forever. You need to get this done. So I think that's what's beginning to happen here, and I'm not a fanboy of anybody. If I had to guess, Ukraine wouldn't be upset if they managed to drag the West into a hot engagement, because that would get some buy-in beyond media and all of that. So, take that for what it is. This is interesting. This is probably not permanent, but this is interesting. Russian ruble is more valuable now than it has been at any time in the last 7 years. So 7 years ago, if it's 22, what is that? 2015? Yeah, 2015. So we're talking all the way back in the Obama administration was the last time the ruble was this high. Next slide's going to have a chart on there. We're going to see just how high the ruble is. But as a result of all these sanctions, right, oil and natural gas exports have dropped from Russia to Europe. Good for Russia. India and China are more than happy to pick up the slack. Even though Russia is having to sell at steep discounts because of their situation, right? They're actually up $1.7 billion in revenue. And if I'm not mistaken, that number was actually like just for the month of April. So they're up $1.7 billion over what they thought they were going to make selling their oil at a discounted rate to India and China. Thanks to, rising tide raises all ships. So cheap oil in a heightened price environment has made Russia tons of money. And China may still have room to yet double their current imports from Russia. So if they do that, that's going to put them, they're right at about a million barrels per day. They could see that go up to 2 million barrels per day. So Russia right now, the sanctions, they have definitely hit. I mean, sanctions have inflicted wounds, but they've not really slowed the bear down any. Here is the chart I was telling you about. This is the Russian ruble exchange rate compared to the US dollar. So if you look there, let me move me out of the way here. Okay, so February 29th, or 28th, sorry, going into the first week of March there, you can see that the ruble was at an all-time low. Now on this chart it's represented as the high, so that is the most amount of rubles it's ever cost, or it has cost in this period, to purchase $1. So right when the war started, if you had a bunch of rubles and you wanted dollars, it was going to cost you 120 rubles for $1 US. You can see this going down, down, down until we get here to the middle of June. Now, if you have a bunch of rubles and you want to buy a US dollar, it only costs you 55 rubles. That is I mean, I've not done the actual math. Let's call 55.60, and let's just, the value of the ruble as compared to the dollar has doubled since the war began. You know, it is what it is. I don't think this will last. I think as we move into the future, we're going to see highs and lows. I don't expect US dollar to win long term. I think that we've all basically admitted that. That's why they're talking about doing the CBDCs. That's another video though. Moving on. So Russia has started restricting natural gas flows to Germany and Italy. Germany, I believe they are down. It's hard to keep track, guys. This stuff moves so fast. I want to say Russia to Germany, which also feeds into France, I believe. Maybe off of my geography, maybe it's Spain. I think it's France. Wish I had my maps. Anyway, so Russia had restricted the flows 40% to Germany and then restricted it additionally by another 60%. And it's down like 70% to Italy, if I remember correctly. The EU is warning its member states, guys, you need to stockpile natural gas and oil reserves, and you need to seek other sources for these resources. It said it would be foolish to not prepare for a worst case scenario this winter. A lot of power generation and heating in Europe is done via natural gas and petroleum products still to this day, and a lot of that comes from Russia. So that's what they have to look forward to this winter. Moving over to China and Taiwan. Let me move me into the middle here. There we go. All right, I believe this was yesterday, so I'm going to rewind about a week. So about a week ago, Taiwan's defense minister was talking. I don't know where he was talking at, who he was talking to, but he said Taiwan, of course, would never invade China, nor would Taiwan actively strike Beijing or the Three Gorges Dam. Yu is this guy's last name. But before China attacks Taiwan, it must consider Taiwan's existing capacity to strike Beijing. Now there, what he's talking about are these hypersonic surface-to-surface missiles that Taiwan has. Taiwan could reach out and hit Beijing. They could reach out and hit Three Gorges Dam. Either of these would obviously be an act of war and be a massive loss of life most likely, but I want to talk about the Three Gorges Dam real briefly. If they were to hit Three Gorges Dam is massive. It slowed the Earth's rotation as they diverted the Yangtze River into it. There have been lots of studies. They have to, because every monsoon season, people really run the risk of being flooded because of this dam situation. If that dam goes, either due to monsoon floods or missile strikes, conservative estimates are 120 million people will die as a result of the wall of water that's going to be, 30 and 40 foot high, several miles out. It's just going to wipe people off the surface of the earth, guys. It will be absolutely catastrophic. So this happened last week. It was just threats. They haven't done it, obviously, or you'd have heard about that. Yesterday, the Chinese Air Force flew 17 fighters, 6 bombers, as well as electronic warfare and anti-submarine planes, for a total of 29 planes. Flew them into Taiwanese airspace. Of course, China doesn't see it that way. China says that's Chinese airspace, right? Because Taiwan is part of China, one China. The rest of the world, most of the rest of the world, seems to see it a little differently. Taiwan obviously does. The U.S. has continued to up its rhetoric and activities. We recently publicly came out and said the Strait of Taiwan are international waters, meaning the little stretch of water between Big China and Little Taiwan is not Chinese sovereign territory, and that it is international waters. China, China's, they're already mad. we're not winning friends and influencing people here. So that was Taiwan and China. I don't know if I've actually got another slide after this. I don't. It looks like it is time for the wrap up. So to quickly wrap up, if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. It helps me understand what you like. If you want to see more content like this, I follow world events, things that I think are important to the path that we are on as a people and as a planet. I'll go into that more in later videos. Subscribe if you want to follow what I'm getting into, what I'm watching. Please leave me a comment. I'd love to interact with you guys, hear your opinions, hear your thoughts. If there's something you'd like me to cover, leave me a comment. If you want to talk to me in private for some reason, you have some information you want to share or things you'd like me to look into, please email me, MitchellRTN. That's for Mitchell Reads the News @gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you.